Okay, let's be real. Women do some things that absolutely baffle men. I mean, why do they get flooded with matches on dating apps, yet still say that there are no good guys? Why do they spend more on beauty products even when money is tight? And why does their best friend know more about your relationship than you do? I mean, at first these behaviors might seem irrational or just plain confusing, but when you dig into the science and the psychology of it and the biology, it all starts to make sense. So today I actually want to talk about 5 different things that might seem really crazy to men, but they're actually not so crazy for women, but actually really normal. Let's get into it. Point number 1, the Rockstar versus the accountant effect, or what is called mate ejection. Okay, you have seen this play out 1,000 times in movies and TV shows and even in real life. There is a girl that is torn between 2 completely different men. On one side we have this rock star guy who is the wild, the unpredictable, the exciting guy. Maybe he rides a motorcycle, maybe he disappears for days, maybe he has that bad boy charm that makes her feel something. And then there is the accountant. I mean, the guy who texts back, who remembers her birthday, who plans for the future. No unpredictability, no chaos, but stability. And here's what baffles most men is how women can switch between the two so easily. One minute she's like chasing passion and the next moment she's like chasing security. But there is like a good reason for that. So there was a study in University of Texas that found out that women's attraction shifts really based on context. So when you're looking for short-term excitement, they're drawn to men who give off good genes signals like charm and confidence and unpredictability, like think bad boy energy. But when it comes to long-term stability, they prioritize security and commitment because these are the traits that help her make a family. So here's the part that really throws men off, and that is that if that long-term partner stops providing security, many women will leave immediately, and the same goes for the bad boy. A 2015 study from St. Mary's University called this mate ejection, an evolved mechanism where women cut ties fast if a partner is not meeting their demands. So if she no longer feels safe, valued, or provided for, she's out. But isn't this same for men as well? I mean, you might be thinking, okay, but men also like different kinds of women when they are looking for something short-term versus long-term. Yes, but there is one very key difference. So there was a study published in Evolution and Human Behavior that found out that men across cultures consistently rated physical appearance as their top priority, regardless of relationship type. Meaning that for men, physical attractiveness is the top factor whether they're looking for a short-term fling or a long-term relationship. And for women, physical attractiveness is pretty far down the list. And that is why you often see stunning women with guys who are, at least in terms of look, they seem way out of their league. For men, long-term or short-term, the women has to be hot. For women, looks matter, but security, intelligence, and emotional availability also rank very high. And that is why you'll sometimes hear the guys say, oh my god, she left me for some like really boring dude with a stable job and it doesn't even look as good as me. Yep, that pretty much checks out. But here's the thing where it gets even wilder. You would think that with all this, like shifting attraction, women would be more emotionally fragile after a breakup. But you're wrong. So there was a study from Binghamton University and University College London that surveyed over 5,700 people across 96 countries. And they found out this really interesting thing, that women actually report higher levels of emotional and physical pain after a breakup than men. But women also recover faster and come out emotionally stronger. Men, on the other hand, tend to suppress their emotions, leading to longer-term difficulties moving on. Because women process emotions head on, like they cry, they talk, they journal, they analyze what went wrong, and eventually they heal. But men, not so much. I mean, they bottle it up, avoid dealing with it, and try to distract themselves immediately post breakup. And that is why men are way more likely to suffer relapses after a breakup, even years after breakup. So if you ever notice a guy still struggling with his ex like years later, well, she's completely moved on. Now you know why. Number 2, the Tend-and-Befriend Effect, or why women share all their secrets with their friends. I hate to be the one telling you this, but if you are dating a woman, her best friend pretty much knows everything about you. And I mean everything. I mean, your texts, they will be read. Your arguments, they will be analyzed. And the way you looked at her that one time and made her mad, that will be reviewed in her group chat. Before you panic, no, this isn't some evil plot to expose you. It's like actually science and biology. There was a study in UCLA on stress and social bonding that found that women experience something called the tend-and-befriend response. So when men face stress, they typically go into fight or flight mode, either shutting down completely or wanting to fix the problem immediately through action. Women, on the other hand, talk it out. Their brains are wired to process emotion through conversation. Talking things through with their trusted friends helps them reduce stress, regulate emotions, and gain clarity. And this isn't just some random habit, it's a fundamental part of female friendships. There was a study in 2023 in University of Texas that found that 90% of women share intimate details of their relationship with their closest friends. Guess how many men do that? Like 40%. And I'm pretty sure its actual numbers might be even less. So when a guy says, please don't tell anyone about this, like chances are that her best friend already knows. I mean, not really because she's out to embarrass you, because this is how she processes emotion. Now, contrast this with men, for example. There was a study at Harvard on gendered communication that found that men prefer to self-regulate emotions, meaning they process problems alone rather than talking through them. I mean, in general. Male friendships, on the other hand, are often more activity-based, whereas female friendships revolve around emotional disclosure and like support. So women, when they get together, they're talking, and that is having a great time. When men are getting together, we want to have some action. And this is why a big reason for why so many arguments happen in relationships as well, because a woman assumes her partner wants to talk things through because that is how she processes conflict. Girlfriend's best friend knows way too much about you. You're probably not wrong. It's not really betrayal, but it's just how women bond. And honestly, it's probably why she handles stress better than you do, at least in the long term. Point number 3, women face way more harassment than men think they do. So you ever noticed how women in your life don't rarely talk about the harassment that they have ever experienced? I mean, you might see that online, but you don't see it happening in your like close circle, your friends, your family, or your significant other. Not really because it doesn't happen to them, but because it happens actually so often that it barely feels worth mentioning. Most men never see it, not because it's rare, but because it never happens when you guys are around. 2021 UN report that found that more than 80% of women worldwide have experienced some kind of public harassment. There was a study in Cornell University in 2016 that mapped over 10,000 women's experiences globally, and that found that more than half of the women have been groped or touched against their consent in public places. And here's why so many men find this hard to believe, is that they are not there when that happens. So in 2019, a study by French Institute for Demographic Studies found that women are twice as likely to be harassed when they are alone as compared to, for example, when they are with a man. They found that the harassment is most common in places where men aren't typically present, like, for example, women's restrooms and public transport and stairwells and workplaces. A 2023 study found out that 90% of young women adjust their daily routines, which means choosing different routes, pretending to be on phone calls, and even changing their clothes to avoid unwanted attention. I mean, this is why women do things that might seem unnecessary or paranoid to a lot of men, why they share locations with their friends, carry self-defense tools, or even avoid certain areas at night. And the thing is, this is like a big lesson for men to understand that women's primary concern during the dating or when you are meeting somebody new is just the fact that she wants to feel safe. All the attraction, everything happens after the woman feels that she is safe. And as long as the woman doesn't feel that she's safe, there will not be anything happening at all. And that is why this is something that men need to know more and understand more, and realize that it happens far more than they think in the lives of women, even in the lives of women that they know. Point number 4, and when I first found out about it, it blew my mind like you would never know. If you ever get a chance, ask your single female friend to show you her dating app inbox, like if she uses like Tinder or Bumble or anything. I did it once, and let me tell you that it completely changed the whole perception of online dating for me. There were like hundreds of messages, like messages pouring in every minute, like guys sending all different kinds of pickup lines, like long essays, short essays, fire emojis, copy paste pickup lines, everything that you could imagine. She was literally drowning in attention. I mean, she was attractive, but the sheer volume of the attention was insane. I mean, I had to ask myself that, is it like that for all women? And it turns out that, at least online, pretty much true. Imagine both you and a woman open a dating app at the same time. You both swipe 100 times, and you as a guy, you might get 2 or maybe 5 matches on the average if you are lucky. She could get like 30, 50, or even 80 matches without even trying. So Tinder's the famous app, internal data in 2020 found that women swipe right only 14% of the times, whereas men swipe right on 46% of the profiles. There was a 2016 study that found that men received matches on only 0.6% of their swipes, whereas women received matches 10% of the times, and that is a difference of more than 10 times. For most men, getting a match online is a struggle. For most women, the challenge is there are just too many options. They just have to sort through them. And that is why dating apps feel like a rigged game, because for women, it's overwhelming, and for men, it's frustrating. There was a study in 2018 in University of Michigan that found that top men, let's say 10% of men on dating apps receive the majority of the women's attention, whereas the bottom 80% are hardly ever viewed. Even the average woman on the basis of attraction and pictures receives multiple messages a day, whereas men struggle to find a response. More than 54% of women feel overwhelmed by the number of messages that they receive. More than half of the women are drowning in attention. So if you're a guy on a dating app and you think that why am I being ignored, then you're not alone. The system is designed this way. Dating apps aren't just social spaces, they're businesses, and apps like Tinder or Bumble use ranking systems that push the most attractive users to the top, meaning that a small percentage of men get most of the attention, whereas the others barely get seen. That is sadly the reality that men have to go through, whereas for women, it's a completely different world. The next one is kind of crazy, and that is the lipstick effect. You know how when things get tough financially, most people cut back on the extras? Makes sense, right? If there is a recession, you want to cut down on your spending. Fewer takeouts, fancy coffee, not anymore, maybe holding off on the new phone. But here is where it gets really interesting. When a recession hits, women actually start spending more on the beauty products. Yeah, more, not less. Lipstick, skincare, hair treatments, salon visits. It all goes up in a recession. It sounds weird, but it's not really random spending, and it's actually called the lipstick effect, and there's a reason behind it. So let's break it down. 2012 study from the University of Minnesota found out exactly the same thing, that during economic downturns, women actually increase their spending on beauty products, not really decrease it. Why? It's sort of strategic. The research suggests that in certain times, women invest in their appearance as a way to boost confidence and make sure that they stand out. It doesn't necessarily mean that she's out there looking to get the hotter guy, but the activity of making her doing makeup actually makes her feel better. It might even be subconscious, for example, from an evolutionary angle, looking attractive could help secure stability, whether it is in personal life or work. Before anyone jumps to the conclusion, no, this doesn't necessarily mean that women are out there buying lipstick to trap like a rich guy. It's actually much more deeper than that. Think about it. During tough times, confidence can feel like a currency of its own. When everything else feels unstable, looking put together provides a sense of control. It's not just really about attracting attention, it's about maintaining a sense of self-assurance when everything else seems unpredictable. Women aren't trying to impress others, they're doing it to feel grounded and prepared and in control. So when men hear this and go, wait, you're stressed about money, so you go out and buy expensive makeup, and yeah, it does sound backward, but in a certain way, men do the same thing, just in a different way. The lipstick effect proves something big. Beauty isn't just really about the looks. It's a tool, it's a strategy, and a way to navigate uncertainty. And honestly, it's just one of those many things that women do that might seem odd at first, but make perfect sense once you understand the reasoning behind them. So we have talked about how women experience dating apps differently, and how they process breakups faster, and how they rely on their friendships in ways men don't. And now the psychology of beauty spending. And all of these behaviors might seem confusing or even crazy at first, but once you dig deeper, they all have some pretty logical evolutionary explanations. So what is it something in your life that you have seen women do that might seem crazy to you that I didn't talk about? Write down in comments and let me know what you think.